The theft. The red sun of Novus Prime cast an eerie glow over the human colony of Hope's Landing. Dust devils swirled across the barren landscape, their dance a constant reminder of the harsh world humanity now called home. In the distance, the protective dome shimmered, a fragile barrier between the colonists and the unforgiving alien environment. Inside the colony's main command center, Captain Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display, her face a mask of concern. The latest supply convoy was overdue, and with resources already stretched thin, every minute counted. "Any word from the convoy, Lieutenant?" she asked, her voice tight with worry. Lieutenant Mike Foster shook his head, his fingers dancing across the console. "Negative, Captain. Last transmission was 3 hours ago, just before they entered the Scarlet Canyon." Sarah's frown deepened. The Scarlet Canyon was notorious for its unpredictable magnetic storms, but the convoy shielding should have protected them. Something wasn't right. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the command center. Red warning lights bathed the room in an ominous glow. "Report." Sarah barked, her training kicking in. "Multiple unidentified craft detected, Captain." Mike shouted over the din. "They're converging on the convoy's last known position." Sarah's blood ran cold. They'd all heard the stories, tales of alien raiders preying on vulnerable colonies and outposts. But Hope's Landing had been lucky so far. Until now. "Sound the alert. I want all defense systems online, and a rescue team prepped and ready in 5 minutes," Sarah ordered, her mind racing through contingencies. As the colony sprang into action, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than a simple raid. The aliens had chosen their moment too perfectly, striking when the colony was at its most vulnerable. Hours passed in tense silence. The rescue team returned empty-handed, their faces grim. The convoy was gone, along with its precious cargo of food, medicine, and the specialized generators needed to maintain the colony's life support systems. In the aftermath, Sarah called an emergency meeting of the colony's leadership. The mood in the conference room was somber, the weight of their situation hanging heavy in the air. Dr. Emily Zhao, the colony's chief scientist, spoke first. "Without those generators, we have maybe 2 weeks before our life support systems fail. The backup units weren't designed for long-term use in this environment." "What about rationing?" asked Mark Thompson, the civilian administrator. "Can we stretch our supplies?" Sarah shook her head. "We're already on minimal rations. Cutting back further would compromise the health and safety of every colonist." Silence fell over the room as the reality of their situation sank in. They were stranded on a hostile world, their lifeline cut, with no way to call for help. "So what do we do?" Mark finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah stood, her posture straight, her eyes blazing with determination. "We take back what's ours." The room erupted in a chorus of disbelief and objections. "With what army?" Dr. Zhao demanded. "We're scientists and engineers, not soldiers. And even if we had the manpower," Mark added, "we don't know where the raiders took our supplies. It would be suicide to go after them." Sarah raised her hand for silence. "I'm not suggesting we launch a full-scale assault, but we can't just sit here and wait to die. We need those supplies, and I have a plan to get them back." As Sarah outlined her idea, the others listened with a mixture of skepticism and growing hope. It was risky, borderline insane even, but it was the only chance they had. It could work, Dr. Zhao admitted reluctantly. But who would we send? This mission would require someone with combat training, technical expertise, and the ability to operate alone in hostile territory. Sarah's gaze swept the room, landing on a figure standing quietly in the corner. "We have someone who fits that description perfectly." All eyes turned to follow Sarah's gaze. Sergeant Alex Reeves stood at attention, his face impassive, but his eyes burning with an inner fire. Sergeant Reeves was part of the Earth Special Forces before joining the colony, Sarah explained. "He has the skills we need." Alex stepped forward, his voice steady as he addressed the group. I volunteer for the mission, Captain. Just point me in the right direction. The room fell silent once more, the weight of the decision hanging in the air. Finally, Mark spoke up. It's a long shot, but it's the only shot we've got. I say we do it. One by one, the others nodded their agreement. Sarah turned to Alex, her expression a mix of hope and concern. Are you sure about this, Sergeant? There's no guarantee you'll make it back. Alex's jaw tightened, determination etched in every line of his face. With all due respect, Captain, if I don't try, none of us will make it. I've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Sarah nodded, recognizing the truth in his words. Very well. Let's get you prepped and ready. Time is not on our side. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Dr. Zhao and her team worked feverishly to modify Alex's equipment for the harsh conditions he would face. Mark coordinated with the logistics team to gather what meager supplies they could spare for the mission. As the colony bustled with preparations, Alex stood alone in the armory, methodically checking and rechecking his gear. Each piece was a lifeline, a thin thread connecting him to survival in the unforgiving alien wilderness. Sarah found him there, his focus unwavering as he assembled his custom rifle. How are you holding up, Sergeant? She asked softly. Alex looked up, a wry smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Just another day at the office, Captain. Although I have to admit, the commute's a bit longer than usual. Sarah chuckled despite herself, grateful for the moment of levity. You know, when you volunteered for this colony mission, I don't think this is what you had in mind. Maybe not, Alex admitted, his expression turning serious. But this is our home now. These people, they're not just colonists, they're family. And family looks out for each other. Sarah nodded, understanding all too well the bonds forged in the face of adversity. Just promise me one thing, Alex. Come back alive. That's in order. Alex snapped to attention, offering a crisp salute. Yes, ma'am. I intend to bring back our supplies and maybe teach those aliens a lesson about messing with humans while I'm at it. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the colony, Alex made his final preparations. The modified rover was loaded and ready, packed with enough supplies to last him a week, if he was lucky. The entire colony gathered to see him off, a sea of worried faces and whispered prayers. As Alex climbed into the rover, Dr. Zhao approached, holding the small device. This is a prototype long-range scanner, she explained, handing it to him. It should help you track the alien ships. Just be careful with it. It's not exactly field-tested. Alex nodded his thanks, securing the device. I'll bring it back in one piece, Doc, along with everything else they took. With a final wave to the assembled crowd, Alex sealed the rover's hatch. The engines roared to life, and the vehicle surged forward, quickly disappearing into the gathering darkness. As the colony watched him go, a mixture of hope and fear hung in the air. They had just sent one man to face an unknown alien threat, armed with determination and ingenuity. It was a quintessentially human response to an impossible situation. Little did they know, Alex's mission would not only determine the fate of Hope's Landing but would send shockwaves through the galaxy, forever changing the way alien civilizations viewed humanity. As the rover's taillights faded into the distance, Sarah turned to address the anxious colonists. All right, people. We've done our part. Now it's up to Sergeant Reeves. In the meantime, we've got work to do. Let's make sure we have a home for him to come back to. With renewed purpose, the colonists dispersed, each to their assigned tasks. They had 2 weeks to prepare for either salvation or extinction. As the dome's lights flickered to life, casting a defiant glow against the alien night, Hope's Landing steeled itself for the challenges ahead. And somewhere out in the vast, uncharted wilderness of Novus Prime, a lone human raced against time and hostile forces, carrying with him the hopes and dreams of an entire colony. The hunt had begun, and the aliens were about to learn a valuable lesson. Never underestimate the determination of a human with everything to lose. The chase. The alien landscape of Novus Prime stretched endlessly before Alex, a tapestry of rust-colored plains and jagged rock formations. The modified rover rumbled across the uneven terrain, its reinforced chassis designed to withstand the planet's punishing environment. Inside, Alex's eyes darted between the navigation display and the prototype scanner Dr. Zhao had given him. "Come on, you bastards," he muttered, adjusting the scanner settings. "Where are you hiding?" As if in answer, the device emitted a series of rapid beats. Alex's heart raced as he interpreted the data. The alien ships had left a faint energy trail, barely detectable but unmistakable to someone who knew what to look for. Alex allowed himself a grim smile. His years of training were about to pay off in ways he never could have imagined. Flashback. Earth. 5 years earlier, the training facility buzzed with activity as recruits moved through various simulations and obstacle courses. Alex stood at attention, sweat beading on his forehead as his commanding officer, Major Lisa Hawkins, paced before him. "Reeves," she barked, "tell me why you're here." Alex's voice was steady as he replied, "To serve and protect humanity, ma'am." Major Hawkins raised an eyebrow. "Noble sentiment, soldier, but I want to know why you're really here. What drives you?" Alex hesitated, memories flashing through his mind. The colony he grew up in, destroyed by an alien incursion. The faces of friends and family lost in the attack. "To ensure no one else suffers what I've suffered, ma'am," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. The Major's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Good answer, Reeves. Now, let's make sure you have the skills to back up that conviction." The memory faded as Alex guided the rover around a particularly treacherous outcropping. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the landscape and making navigation even more challenging. But he couldn't afford to stop. Every minute counted. As night fell, the temperature plummeted. Frost began to form on the rover's exterior, the rapid temperature change causing the metal to creak and groan. Alex checked the environmental controls, grateful for Dr. Zhao's modifications. Without them, he'd be little more than a human popsicle by morning. The hours crawled by, a monotonous rhythm of scanning, driving, and making minute course corrections. Alex fought against fatigue, knowing that a single mistake could prove fatal. He thought of the colonists back at Hope's Landing, of Sarah and the others counting on him. Failure wasn't an option. Just as the first hints of dawn began to color the horizon, the scanner erupted in a cacophony of alerts. Alex's exhaustion vanished in an instant, replaced by laser-sharp focus. "Gotcha," he whispered, studying the readout. The alien ships had touched down in a deep canyon about 10 kilometers ahead. It was the perfect hiding spot, shielded from most long-range scans, and easily defensible. But the aliens hadn't counted on human ingenuity or the desperation that drove it. Alex brought the rover to a halt behind a large rock formation, concealing it from any potential lookouts. He needed to get closer to assess the situation before making his move. Grabbing his gear and the scanner, he exited the vehicle, immediately assaulted by the planet's frigid morning air. As he made his way towards the canyon on foot, Alex's training kicked in. He moved silently, using the terrain for cover, every sense alert for signs of danger. The weight of his mission pressed down on him, but he pushed the pressure aside, focusing only on the next step, the next breath. Reaching the canyon's edge, Alex dropped to his stomach, crawling the last few meters. He peered over the rim, his enhanced visor zooming in on the scene below. 3 alien ships sat in the canyon's base, their sleek designs unlike anything in the human fleet. Around them, a flurry of activity as the raiders unloaded their stolen cargo. Alex's jaw clenched as he spotted the generators, their distinctive shape unmistakable even at this distance. But it was the aliens themselves that gave him pause. They were tall, easily 7 feet, with iridescent scales covering their bodies and multiple arms that moved with unsettling grace. Their faces were a nightmare of compound eyes and mandibles. "Well, Alex muttered to himself. Nobody said this was going to be easy. He spent the next hour observing, noting patrol patterns and security measures. The aliens were confident, almost casual in their movements. Clearly, they didn't expect anyone to have followed them this far. Their overconfidence would be their downfall. As Alex formulated his plan, a memory surfaced, another lesson from his training days. Flashback. Earth, 4 years earlier. Remember, Major Hawkins said, addressing the group of elite trainees, "Your greatest weapon isn't your gun or your tech. It's this." She tapped her temple for emphasis. Humans have survived and thrived because of our ability to adapt, to think creatively in the face of overwhelming odds. When you're out there, outnumbered and outgunned, that's what will save you. That's what will save us all. Alex allowed himself a small smile at the memory. He was certainly outnumbered and outgunned now, but he had something the aliens didn't: the innovative spirit of humanity and the drive of a man with everything to lose. Moving back from the canyon's edge, Alex returned to the rover. He had a plan forming, but he'd need every tool at his disposal to pull it off. As he gathered supplies, he thought about the colonists waiting for his return, their lives hanging in the balance. "Hang on," he whispered, though they were too far away to hear. "I'm coming." With determination burning in his eyes, Alex began the dangerous process of infiltrating the alien base. He used the planet's harsh environment to his advantage, timing his movements with the swirling dust storms that periodically swept through the canyon. As he crept closer to the alien ships, Alex's mind raced through possible scenarios. He needed to not only recover the stolen supplies, but also ensure the aliens couldn't come after the colony again. It was a tall order for one man, but Alex was no ordinary soldier. Approaching the perimeter, he encountered his first major obstacle, an energy barrier, nearly invisible to the naked eye, but humming with lethal potential. Alex smiled grimly. He trained for this. Retrieving a small device from his pack, he attached it to the barrier. It was a prototype EMP generator designed to create localized disruptions in energy fields. As he activated it, a small section of the barrier flickered and died. Alex slipped through the opening, his heart pounding but his movements steady. He was in. The alien encampment was a maze of equipment and supplies, much of it clearly stolen from various sources. Alex moved silently between crates and containers, using them as cover. He could hear the aliens communicating, their language a series of clicks and chittering sounds that set his teeth on edge. As he neared the center of the camp, Alex spotted the generators. They were heavily guarded, the aliens clearly aware of their value. Getting to them wouldn't be easy, but Alex had a few tricks up his sleeve. Reaching into his pack, he retrieved a small canister. It was a new type of smoke grenade, designed to interfere with a wide range of visual spectrums. Alex took a deep breath, steeling himself for what came next. In one fluid motion, he armed the grenade and tossed it towards the guards. The canister erupted in a cloud of shimmering particles, instantly obscuring the area. The aliens reacted with surprise, their clicking language rising in pitch and urgency. Alex moved fast, sprinting towards the generators. He reached them just as the first alien emerged from the smoke, its compound eyes swiveling wildly. Without hesitation, Alex engaged, his combat training taking over. The alien was strong, its multiple arms giving it an advantage in close quarters. But Alex was faster, more agile. He ducked under a swinging limb, striking at vulnerable points he'd identified during his earlier observations. As he fought, Alex's mind flashed back to his training once more. Flashback. Earth, 3 years earlier. In combat with an unknown species, the instructor lectured, "Observation is key. Every being has weaknesses. Your job is to find them and exploit them. Remember, you're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for all of humanity." The memory fueled Alex's resolve. He redoubled his efforts, each strike precise and calculated. The alien stumbled, clearly unused to an opponent who could match its strength and speed. With a final decisive blow, Alex sent the creature crashing to the ground. He didn't have time to catch his breath. More aliens were converging on his position, drawn by the commotion. Working quickly, Alex activated the generator's emergency transport protocols. One by one, they dematerialized, sent back to preset coordinates at Hope's Landing. But the other supplies were still scattered throughout the camp. Alex knew he couldn't recover everything. He had to prioritize. Racing through the camp, he grabbed what he could: medical supplies, critical technology components, anything that could give the colony a fighting chance. The aliens were in full pursuit now, their initial shock giving way to rage. Energy weapons fired, the air crackling with deadly bolts that missed Alex by mere inches. He returned fire when he could, more to slow them down than to inflict casualties. As he fought his way back to the perimeter, Alex's mind raced. He had what he came for, but his mission wasn't complete. He couldn't let the aliens regroup and come after the colony again. Then he saw it, the alien ship's fuel cells, glowing with barely contained energy. A plan formed in his mind, dangerous and desperate, but potentially decisive. Dodging enemy fire, Alex made his way to the nearest ship. He planted explosive charges at key structural points, his hands moving with practiced efficiency. As he worked, he could hear the aliens closing in, their angry chittering growing louder by the second. With the last charge set, Alex sprinted for the perimeter. He dove through the section where he'd disabled the energy barrier, rolling to his feet on the other side. The aliens were right behind him, their inhuman shrieks filling the air. Alex didn't look back. He ran, pushing his body to its limits, his lungs burning with each breath. When he judged he was far enough away, he hit the detonator. The explosion was massive, a chain reaction that engulfed all three alien ships. The canyon lit up like a miniature sun, the shockwave knocking Alex off his feet. As he scrambled up, ears ringing, he saw the devastation he'd wrought. The alien base was in ruins, any survivors in no shape to pursue him. Exhausted but triumphant, Alex made his way back to the rover. As he climbed in, securing his hard-won supplies, he allowed himself a moment of relief. He'd done it. Against all odds, he'd recovered what was stolen and ensured the colony's safety. As the rover roared to life, Alex set a course for Hope's Landing. He was going home, and he was bringing hope with him. The aliens had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a human fighting for survival. It was a lesson the galaxy wouldn't soon forget. The confrontation. The rover crested a final ridge, and Hope's Landing came into view. Alex felt a surge of relief at the sight of the colony's dome, still intact and shimmering in the harsh sunlight. But his relief was short-lived as he noticed the unusual activity around the perimeter. "This can't be good," he muttered, pushing the rover to its limits. As he approached, the reason for the commotion became clear. A sleek, angular ship unlike any he'd seen before hovered near the dome's main airlock. It wasn't one of the raider vessels he'd destroyed, but its alien design was unmistakable. Alex's mind raced. Had another group of aliens arrived? Were they here to finish what the raiders had started? He pulled the rover to a stop just outside the airlock, grabbing his weapon and the bag of critical supplies. The airlock cycled open, and Alex stepped through, immediately assaulted by a cacophony of voices and the palpable tension in the air. Captain Sarah Chen spotted him first, relief washing over her face. "Sergeant Reeves, thank God you're back. We've got a situation." Alex nodded grimly. "I noticed. What's going on?" Before Sarah could answer, a booming voice cut through the noise. "So, this is the human responsible for destroying our outpost." Alex turned to face the speaker, his hand instinctively tightening on his weapon. The alien before him was unlike the raiders he'd encountered. Taller, with an air of authority that seemed to ripple through the air around it. Its iridescent scales shimmered with an almost hypnotic quality, and its multiple eyes fixed on Alex with an unsettling intensity. "I am Zorax, overseer of the Crimson Nebula Consortium," the alien announced. "And you, human, have cost us dearly. Alex stood his ground, meeting the alien's gaze. You stole from us first. I was simply taking back what's ours. Zorax's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or anger. It was hard to tell. Ah, yes, the quaint human concept of ownership. Tell me, do you claim ownership of this entire planet as well? We claim the right to survive, Sarah interjected, stepping forward, which your raiders put in jeopardy when they stole our supplies. The alien overseer turned its attention to Sarah. And who might you be? Captain Sarah Chen, leader of this colony, she replied, her voice steady despite the tension evident in her posture. Zorax seemed to consider this for a moment. Very well, Captain Chen. Let us discuss this situation. Perhaps we can reach an understanding that doesn't end in further bloodshed. Alex and Sarah exchanged a glance. This wasn't what either of them had expected, but it might be their best chance to secure the colony's future. Fine, Sarah said. We'll talk, but any negotiations happen on our terms, in our facility. Zorax inclined its head in what appeared to be agreement. Lead the way, Captain. As they made their way to the colony's main conference room, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. He kept his hand near his weapon, eyes constantly scanning for any sign of threat. Once inside, Sarah took her place at the head of the table, with Alex standing vigilant nearby. Zorax settled its massive frame into a chair that seemed comically small in comparison. Now then, the alien began, its voice a low rumble. Let us discuss compensation for the destruction of our outpost and the loss of our personnel. Alex felt his temper flare. Compensation? You've got to be kidding me. You stole from us. We were just taking back what's ours. Zorax's eyes swiveled to focus on Alex. Ah, yes, the brave soldier. Tell me, human, do you truly believe your actions were justified? That your tiny colony's needs outweigh the interests of a vast interstellar consortium? When those interests threaten our survival? Absolutely. Alex shot back. Sarah raised a hand, silencing Alex before turning to address Zorax. Overseer, let's be clear. Your people attacked us without provocation. They stole supplies critical to our survival. Sergeant Reeves acted in defense of our colony. We won't apologize for that. The alien was silent for a moment, its compound eyes unreadable. Then, to everyone's surprise, it let out a sound that might have been laughter. Fascinating, Zorax said. Truly fascinating. You humans continue to surprise me. When we first detected your colony, we assumed you were simple, primitive creatures struggling to survive on this harsh world. Easily exploited. Clearly, we were mistaken. Alex and Sarah exchanged confused glances. This wasn't at all what they had expected. Zorax continued, Tell me, Sergeant Reeves, how did you manage to infiltrate our outpost and destroy it single-handedly? Our preliminary reports suggested it should have been impossible for a lone human to accomplish such a feat. Alex hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. Sarah gave him a slight nod, encouraging him to speak. I use your overconfidence against you, Alex said finally. You underestimated us, assumed we were weak. That made you sloppy, vulnerable. Zorax's mandibles clicked rapidly, a gesture Alex was beginning to interpret as intense interest. Ingenious. And the technology you used. Our sensors detected energy signatures unlike anything we've encountered before. This time, it was Sarah who answered. That's proprietary information, Overseer. Let's just say humans have a knack for innovation, especially when our backs are against the wall. The alien leader seemed to consider this for a long moment. The tension in the room was palpable, everyone acutely aware that the future of the colony might hinge on what happened next. Finally, Zorax spoke. It seems we have grossly underestimated the capabilities and resolve of your species. This miscalculation has cost us dearly. However, it has also presented an intriguing opportunity. What kind of opportunity? Sarah asked cautiously. An alliance, Zorax replied. Your colony has demonstrated resourcefulness, adaptability, and a level of technology we find intriguing. The consortium could benefit from such attributes. Alex couldn't believe what he was hearing. An alliance, after what your people did to us. Zorax turned its unnerving gaze on him. The raiders who attacked you were acting without official sanction. A rogue element within our organization, you might say. Their actions were regrettable. But perhaps we can turn this unfortunate incident into something mutually beneficial. Sarah leaned forward, her expression guarded but interested. We're listening. In exchange for your cooperation and the sharing of certain technologies, the consortium would be willing to offer protection, resources, and access to our interstellar trade networks, Zorax explained. Your colony would no longer struggle for survival. Instead, you could thrive. The offer hung in the air, tempting and dangerous all at once. Alex could see the wheels turning in Sarah's mind, weighing the potential benefits against the risks. And if we refuse? Sarah asked, her voice carefully neutral. Zorax's mandibles clicked softly. Then we leave, and you remain as you are, alone on a hostile world, always one disaster away from extinction. The choice, as you humans say, is yours. Sarah stood, her posture straight and determined. We'll need time to discuss this, Overseer. This isn't a decision to be made lightly. The alien nodded, rising to its full, intimidating height. Of course, I will return to my ship and await your decision. But do not take too long, Captain. Opportunities like this are rare in our galaxy. As Zorax left the room, escorted by colony security, Alex turned to Sarah. You're not seriously considering this, are you? We can't trust them. Sarah sighed, the weight of leadership heavy on her shoulders. We have to consider all our options, Alex. This could be the lifeline we've been hoping for. Or it could be a trap, Alex countered. They could be playing us, waiting until we let our guard down. Maybe, Sarah admitted, but maybe not. Look, I'm not making any decisions yet. We need to discuss this with the entire colony leadership, and I want you there. Alex, your insight could be crucial. Alex nodded, reluctantly. As they left the conference room to gather the other leaders, he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever they decided, nothing would ever be the same for the colony, or for humanity's place in the galaxy. The next few hours were a whirlwind of heated debates and tense discussions. The colony's leadership was divided, with some seeing the alliance as their best chance for long-term survival, while others, like Alex, remained deeply suspicious of the aliens' motives. Dr. Emily Zhao, the colony's chief scientist, was particularly excited about the potential for technological exchange. Think of what we could learn from them, she exclaimed. This could advance our understanding of the universe by centuries. Mark Thompson, the civilian administrator, was more cautious. But at what cost? He asked. How do we know they won't simply take what they want and leave us worse off than before? As the debate raged on, Alex found himself thinking back to his training, to the lessons about humanity's place in the cosmos. Flashback. Earth, 2 years earlier. Remember, Major Hawkins said, addressing the graduating class of the Special Forces program. Out there, we're not just soldiers. We're ambassadors for our entire species. Every action we take, every decision we make, could have far-reaching consequences for humanity's future among the stars. The memory brought clarity to Alex's thoughts. He stood, drawing everyone's attention. We can't pass up this opportunity, he said, surprising even himself with the words. But we can't blindly trust them either. We need to approach this alliance cautiously, on our terms. Sarah nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. I agree. So, how do we do that? Alex laid out his plan. They would accept the alliance, but with conditions. They would share some technology, but not their most advanced innovations. They would allow consortium representatives on the colony, but under strict supervision. And most importantly, they would insist on a mutual defense pact that protected not just Hope's Landing, but Earth itself. As Alex spoke, he could see the other leaders nodding in agreement. It was a delicate balance, but one that could work. With the plan in place, Sarah called for a vote. The decision was unanimous. They would accept the alliance, but on humanity's terms. As they prepared to deliver their response to Zorax, Alex couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. They were about to take a giant leap into the unknown, with potential rewards and dangers beyond imagination. "Ready?" Sarah asked, standing beside him as they waited for Zorax to arrive. Alex took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. "Ready as we'll ever be." As Zorax entered the room, flanked by its alien entourage, Alex stood tall. Whatever came next, humanity would face it head-on, with the same determination and ingenuity that had brought them to the stars in the first place. The confrontation had ended, not in conflict, but in the possibility of cooperation. It was a new beginning, fraught with challenges and opportunities, and as Alex watched Sarah begin to outline their terms to Zorax, he knew that the real work and the real adventure was just beginning. The Reckoning. The news of Hope's Landing's alliance with the Crimson Nebula Consortium spread through the galaxy like wildfire. For weeks, the colony was a hive of activity as they prepared for the arrival of the first official consortium delegation. Alex stood at the observation deck, watching as the sleek alien ships descended through Novus Prime's atmosphere. Despite the alliance, he couldn't shake a sense of unease. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" Sarah's voice came from behind him. Alex nodded, not taking his eyes off the approaching vessels. "It still feels surreal. A month ago, we were fighting for survival. Now we're hosting an interstellar delegation." Sarah moved to stand beside him, her expression a mix of excitement and apprehension. "It's a new era for us, Alex, for all of humanity." As the ships touched down outside the dome, Alex and Sarah made their way to the newly constructed reception area. The colony's leadership team stood ready, a united front to greet their new allies. The airlock cycled open, and Zorax stepped through, followed by a diverse group of alien beings. Some were clearly of the same species as Zorax, while others were entirely different, a testament to the vast reach of the consortium. "Captain Chen," Zorax rumbled, inclining its massive head. "Sergeant Reeves, we meet again under more auspicious circumstances." Sarah stepped forward, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. To everyone's surprise, Zorax mimicked the action, its multiple appendages carefully grasping Sarah's hand. "Welcome to Hope's Landing, Overseer," Sarah said, her voice steady and diplomatic. "We look forward to beginning this new chapter in our shared history." As the formal greetings were exchanged, Alex couldn't help but notice the way the alien delegates were studying their surroundings. Their compound eyes darted from the colony's architecture to the technology visible around them, taking in every detail. One of the aliens, smaller than Zorax, but with an air of intellectual curiosity, approached Alex. "You are the one who single-handedly infiltrated and destroyed our outpost, are you not?" it asked, its voice a melodious trill. Alex tensed, unsure how to respond. "I am," he said finally. "I did what was necessary to protect my people." The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Fascinating. I am Vexilor, chief scientist of the consortium. I would very much like to discuss your tactics and technology, if you're willing." Before Alex could respond, Sarah smoothly interjected. "I'm sure there will be time for such discussions later, Vexilor. For now, let us show you to your accommodations." As the delegation was led away, Alex caught Sarah's eye. She gave him a subtle nod, a reminder of their agreed-upon strategy. They would share, but carefully, always mindful of protecting humanity's interests. The next few days were a whirlwind of meetings, negotiations, and cultural exchanges. The humans of Hope's Landing found themselves thrust into the role of ambassadors, not just for their colony, but for their entire species. In one particularly tense meeting, Zorax broached the subject of Earth. "We are, of course, intensely curious about your homeworld," the alien leader said, its eyes fixed on Sarah. "Perhaps a delegation could be arranged." Sarah's response was diplomatic but firm. "Earth is not currently open to off-world visitors, Overseer. Our alliance is with Hope's Landing. Any expansion of that agreement would require extensive negotiations with our home government." Alex, standing at attention nearby, couldn't help but feel a surge of pride at Sarah's handling of the situation. She was protecting Earth while still maintaining the alliance, a delicate balancing act. As the days passed, news of the alliance spread beyond the consortium. Other alien races began to take notice of the small human colony that had managed to secure such a powerful ally. Diplomatic inquiries started to trickle in, each one a potential opportunity or threat. One evening, as Alex was finishing his patrol of the colony's perimeter, he received an urgent message from Sarah, meeting in the secure conference room. Now, when he arrived, he found Sarah, Dr. Zhao, and Mark Thompson huddled around a holographic display. Their expressions were grim. "What's going on?" Alex asked, immediately on alert. Sarah looked up, her face etched with concern. "We've just received a transmission from Earth. The news of our alliance has caused quite a stir back home. Some are hailing it as a great achievement, but others—" She trailed off, shaking her head. Mark picked up where she left off. "Others see it as a threat. They're worried we've exposed Earth to potential danger by allying ourselves with an alien power." Alex's mind raced. He had expected some pushback from Earth, but this sounded serious. "What does this mean for us?" "For the Alliance." Dr. Zhao spoke up, her usually excited tone now subdued. "It means we're walking a tightrope, Alex. We need to prove that this alliance benefits humanity as a whole, not just our colony. Otherwise, we might find ourselves cut off from Earth entirely," Sarah finished. The gravity of the situation settled over the room. They had thought securing the alliance was their greatest challenge, but now they faced an even greater one, convincing their own people that they hadn't made a terrible mistake. Over the next few weeks, the mood in the colony shifted. The initial excitement of the alliance gave way to a tense vigilance. Every interaction with the consortium representatives was scrutinized, every piece of shared technology carefully vetted. Alex found himself in a new role, acting as a liaison between the colony's security forces and the consortiums. It was a position that required all of his diplomatic skills he hadn't even known he possessed until now. One day, as he was reviewing security protocols with a consortium officer, an alarm blared through the colony. Alex's comm unit crackled to life with Sarah's voice. "Alex, we need you in the command center. Now." When he arrived, he found the command center in chaos. Screens displayed a series of incoming ships, their energy signatures unlike anything they'd seen before. "What are we looking at?" Alex asked, moving to stand beside Sarah. Her face was grim as she responded. "We're not sure. They're not consortium ships, and they're not responding to hails. But they're headed straight for us." Zorax, who had also been summoned, studied the displays with its multiple eyes. "I do not recognize these vessels," it said, a note of concern in its rumbling voice. "But their approach vector suggests hostile intent." As if to confirm Zorax's words, the lead ship suddenly accelerated, breaking formation and heading directly for the colony. "Defensive positions." Sarah barked, her training kicking in. "Alex, get our people to the shelters. Zorax, we could use any help your ships can provide." As Alex rushed to coordinate the evacuation, he couldn't help but think that this was the moment of truth. Would the Alliance hold in the face of an actual threat? Or would Hope's Landing find itself alone once again? The next few hours were a blur of activity. The unknown ships launched a fierce attack, their weapons more advanced than anything the colony had faced before. But they hadn't counted on the combined strength of human ingenuity and consortium technology. Alex found himself in the thick of the battle, coordinating defense efforts from the ground, while consortium ships engaged the enemy in orbit. It was a surreal experience, fighting alongside the very aliens they had once considered a threat. As the battle raged, a realization began to dawn on Alex. These attackers, whoever they were, hadn't just stumbled upon Hope's Landing. They had come prepared for a fight, with weapons designed to counter both human and consortium defenses. This wasn't a random attack. It was a calculated strike. In the command center, Sarah came to the same conclusion. They knew about the alliance, she said, her voice tight with anger and disbelief. Someone leaked the information. Orcs, who had remained to coordinate with its fleet, turned its penetrating gaze on Sarah. Are you suggesting betrayal, Captain Chen? Sarah met the alien's gaze unflinchingly. I'm saying we need to consider all possibilities, Overseer. This attack is too well coordinated to be coincidence. As if to punctuate her words, a massive explosion rocked the colony. Alarms blared as reports flooded in. The dome had been breached. We need to fall back. Alex's voice came over the comm. We can't hold them off much longer. Sarah's mind raced, weighing their options. They couldn't abandon the colony, but staying to fight a losing battle would only result in more casualties. Then an idea struck her. Orcs, she said, turning to the alien leader. You said the consortium has technology that can move large objects through space instantly, right? The Overseer's mandibles clicked rapidly. Yes, but surely you're not suggesting. I'm suggesting we evacuate the entire colony. Sarah interrupted. People, critical infrastructure, everything. Can your ships do it? For a moment, Orcs was silent, its compound eyes unreadable. Then, to everyone's surprise, it let out a sound that might have been laughter. Captain Chen, you continue to astonish me. It's never been attempted on this scale. But yes, I believe we can do it. Sarah nodded, her expression set with determination. Then let's do it. We're not losing Hope's Landing today. As the evacuation order went out, Alex found himself marveling at the sight of entire buildings shimmer and disappear, transported to the safety of the consortium ships in orbit. It was a testament to the power of their new allies, and a stark reminder of how much humanity still had to learn about the universe. Hours later, as the last of the colonists were beamed aboard the consortium vessels, Alex stood with Sarah and Orcs, watching as their attackers swarmed over the now empty colony. They'll find nothing of value, Orcs rumbled. Your people and your technology are safe. Sarah nodded, her expression a mix of relief and determination. Thank you, Overseer, but this isn't over. We need to find out who these attackers are, and who leaked information about our alliance. Alex stepped forward, his voice firm. And we need to show Earth that this alliance isn't a threat, but our best hope for survival in a dangerous galaxy. As the consortium fleet prepared to jump to safety, carrying the entire population of Hope's Landing with it, Alex couldn't help but feel that they had crossed a threshold. The attack had been a harsh reminder of the dangers they faced, but it had also cemented the alliance in ways no treaty ever could. They had faced their first true test together and emerged victorious. Now, as they headed into an uncertain future, one thing was clear. Humanity's place in the galaxy would never be the same again. The reckoning had come, and with it, the dawn of a new era for both Hope's Landing and humanity as a whole. As the stars blurred around them, Alex knew that their greatest challenges and their greatest adventures still lay ahead. The aftermath. The consortium flagship, Celestial Harmony, dropped out of faster-than-light travel, its massive hull dwarfing the collection of human ships and structures it carried. In the ship's main observation deck, Alex stood alongside Sarah, both of them gazing out at the unfamiliar star system before them. So this is our new home, Sarah murmured, her voice a mix of awe and uncertainty. Alex nodded, his eyes scanning the habitable planet that hung in the viewport. For now, at least, until we figure out who attacked us and why. The door behind them hissed open, and Orcs entered, its massive frame seeming to fill the room. Captain Chin, Sergeant Reeves, we are ready to begin the relocation process. The planet's surface has been deemed safe for human habitation. Sarah turned to face the alien overseer, her posture straight and professional despite the exhaustion evident in her eyes. Thank you, Overseer. We appreciate all that the Consortium has done for us. Zorax's mandibles clicked in what Alex had come to recognize as a gesture of acknowledgement. It is what allies do, Captain. But I must warn you, the relocation of your colony has not gone unnoticed. We have received inquiries from various galactic powers, including your own Earth government. Alex felt a knot form in his stomach. He had been dreading this moment. What kind of inquiries? He asked. Many are curious about the nature of our alliance, Zorax replied. Some are concerned about the level of technology we have shared with you. Your Earth government, in particular, has demanded a full explanation of recent events. Sarah sighed, rubbing her temples. I suppose it was inevitable. We'll need to address their concerns, and soon. But first, we need to get our people settled. As they left the observation deck to oversee the relocation, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of something monumental. The decisions they made in the coming days would shape not just the future of Hope's Landing, but potentially the future of human-alien relations for generations to come. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The colonists of Hope's Landing, resilient as ever, threw themselves into the task of building their new home. With the help of Consortium technology, they were able to establish a basic infrastructure in record time. Alex found himself busier than ever, coordinating security for the new colony, while also assisting with the integration of human and alien technology. It was challenging work, but he couldn't deny the thrill of pushing the boundaries of what was possible. One evening, as he was reviewing security protocols with Dr. Zhao, an urgent message came through from Sarah. Emergency meeting in the command center. Now, when Alex arrived, he found Sarah and the colony's leadership team gathered around a holographic display. The tension in the room was palpable. What's going on? Alex asked, moving to stand beside Sarah. She looked up, her expression grim. We've just received a transmission from Earth. The UN Security Council has convened an emergency session to discuss our situation. They're considering declaring Hope's Landing a rogue colony. The room erupted in a cacophony of voices, each leader expressing their shock and outrage. Alex felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. If Earth disavowed them, they would be truly alone in the galaxy. That's not all. Sarah continued, raising her voice to be heard over the commotion. We've also received intelligence suggesting that the attack on our original colony wasn't random. It was orchestrated by a group calling themselves the Terran Purity Front. Dr. Zhao gasped. The TPF, but they're just a fringe group of xenophobes. How could they have the resources to launch an interstellar attack? That's what we need to find out, Sarah replied. And fast, because if they've managed to gain this kind of power, Earth itself could be in danger. The gravity of the situation settled over the room. They weren't just fighting for their own survival anymore. They were potentially the first line of defense for their entire species. So what do we do? Alex asked, his mind already racing through potential strategies. Sarah straightened, her eyes blazing with determination. We fight back. On all fronts. We need to convince Earth that our alliance with the Consortium is in humanity's best interests, and we need to track down the TPF before they can launch another attack. Over the next few days, Hope's Landing became a hive of activity. Sarah and her diplomatic team worked tirelessly to prepare their case for Earth, compiling evidence of the benefits of their alliance with the Consortium. Meanwhile, Alex and Dr. Zhao led a joint human-alien task force to investigate the TPF and their capabilities. As they delved deeper into the mystery, a disturbing picture began to emerge. The TPF had somehow gained access to advanced alien technology, possibly even more sophisticated than what the Consortium had shared with Hope's Landing. But how? Alex muttered, poring over the latest intelligence reports. Where are they getting this tech? Dr. Zhao, who had been analyzing some of the debris from the attack, looked up from her microscope. I think I might have an answer to that, she said, her voice tight with concern. Some of these components, they're not just advanced, they're completely alien to anything we've seen before, including consortium tech. Alex's blood ran cold as the implications sank in. You're saying there's another player in this game? An unknown alien race supplying weapons to human extremists? Dr. Zhao nodded grimly. It looks that way. And whoever they are, they seem intent on disrupting any alliance between humans and known alien civilizations. The news sent shockwaves through the colony leadership. It was one thing to face a human extremist group. It was another entirely to be caught in the middle of some grand interstellar conspiracy. As they grappled with this new information, the day of the UN Security Council hearing arrived. Sarah, along with a small delegation that included Alex and Zorax, prepared to make their case via subspace communication. The hearing was tense from the start. Earth's representatives were skeptical, their questions pointed and often accusatory. But Sarah stood her ground, presenting evidence of the alliance's benefits and warning of the greater threat posed by the TPF and their mysterious alien benefactors. Members of the council, Sarah said, her voice steady and clear despite the millions of miles separating her from Earth, I understand your concerns, but I urge you to look at the bigger picture. The galaxy is vast and often hostile. The alliance between Hope's Landing and the Crimson Nebula Consortium represents our best chance not just for survival, but for humanity to take its place among the stars. As Sarah spoke, Alex couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. This was why she was their leader, her ability to see the bigger picture, to fight not just for their colony, but for all of humanity. The council deliberated for what felt like an eternity. Finally, the Secretary General spoke. Captain Chen, while we still have reservations, we cannot ignore the evidence you've presented. The UN Security Council hereby recognizes the legitimacy of Hope's Landing's alliance with the Crimson Nebula Consortium. Furthermore, in light of the threat posed by the Terran Purity Front, we are officially requesting your assistance in Earth's defense. The relief in the room was palpable. They had done it. They had secured Earth's support, and in doing so, potentially saved countless lives. But their victory was short-lived. As the transmission ended, alarms blared throughout the colony. Alex rushed to the command center, his heart pounding. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL, the sensor operator shouted. Energy signatures matched those of the ships that attacked our original colony. Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. Battle stations. This is not a drill. Zorax, we need your ships ready to engage. As the colony sprang into action, Alex couldn't help but feel a grim sense of satisfaction. This time, they were ready. This time, they weren't alone. The battle that followed was fierce and desperate. The TPF ships, armed with their mysterious alien technology, proved to be formidable opponents. But the combined forces of Hope's Landing and the consortium were driven by something more than just military might. They were fighting for a future where humans and aliens could coexist, where the galaxy was a place of exploration and cooperation rather than fear and isolation. In the thick of the battle, Alex found himself working side by side with alien allies, coordinating defense strategies and launching counterattacks. It was a surreal experience, but one that filled him with hope for the future. As the tide of the battle began to turn in their favor, Alex received an urgent communication from Dr. Zhao. Alex, we've managed to capture one of the enemy ships. You need to see this. Leaving the ongoing battle in capable hands, Alex rushed to the research lab. What he saw there would change everything. Inside the captured ship, they found not human extremists, but aliens, beings unlike any they had encountered before. These creatures were shapeshifters, capable of mimicking human form. They've been manipulating us, Dr. Zhao explained, her voice filled with a mix of scientific excitement and horror, creating conflicts between humans and other alien races, all to keep us isolated and vulnerable. The implications were staggering. The TPF, the attack on their original colony, perhaps even the initial raid that had started this whole journey, it had all been part of a larger plan by these unknown aliens to keep humanity from forming alliances with other species. As the last of the enemy ships were defeated or driven off, a sense of profound change settled over Hope's Landing. They had faced their greatest challenge and emerged victorious, but the revelations of the day had irrevocably altered their understanding of their place in the galaxy. In the aftermath of the battle, as the colony began the process of rebuilding and integrating their new knowledge, Alex found himself once again standing with Sarah in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "So, what now?" he asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Sarah was quiet for a moment, her gaze fixed on the distant pinpricks of light. "Now," she said finally, "we do what humans have always done. We adapt, we learn, we grow, and we reach out to the stars not in fear, but in hope." Alex nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. They had started this journey as a small colony fighting for survival. Now they stood as representatives of humanity, pioneers in a new age of interstellar cooperation and discovery. As they turned to leave, ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy might throw at them next, Alex couldn't help but smile. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with unknown dangers and marvels beyond imagination. But they would face it together, humans and aliens, united in their quest for knowledge and understanding. The aftermath of their trials had forged them into something new, something stronger. And as Hope's Landing looked to the future, they carried with them the indomitable spirit that had brought humanity to the stars in the first place. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning.